Shall we begin?
Hello everyone and welcome back to Wildstar Weekly. The date is the 18th of May. My name is Philetic and I'm here to bring you this week's Wildstar news.
Bring it on! You okay?
First of all, first time ever seen we have now going on our B-roll. Is White Vale.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is Garrett Fuller from MMORPG. I am here with Jeremy Gaffney from Carbine Studios, and we are here to talk about Wildstar.
On Carbine's website, we see an interesting image at the top of it saying, "Click me." Once clicked, you're met with a poster type image with a load of missing chairs and class dismissed. So possibly they're going to be releasing the next classes on the 22nd of May. Carbine have announced their closed beta test too. Alongside this, they have also released the patch notes which came with it. So they invited 2,000 people to this test, so if you got in, congratulations, and if not, there's always the beta stress test that's coming later. Smash and Grab, the new battleground coming alongside closed beta 2. For a better insight on Smash and Grab, go over to wildstarfans.net where they have a rundown of how the game actually works. Carbine hosted a press event this week and Jeremy Gaffney managed to find himself on a community live stream done by Week in the Geek where they just talked about Wildstar in general for about 40 minutes, so that'd be an interesting video for you guys to watch. So I hope that gives you a lot of content to read and or watch. I personally would recommend the MMORPG.com interview that they did with Jeremy Gaffney, and I want to highlight a section of that interview to do with housing dungeons, something that I have never heard of before.
Here's an interesting thing to talk about. Housing dungeons. We haven't talked about them really publicly yet. But when we were all off at PAX, we've had a plan for a while. We don't announce most of what's in the hopper because we like to do it and then talk about it. So when we were off at PAX East, all the senior management was off there, and I'd wanted to kill housing dungeons because we never talked about it. It's a lot of work. They're cool, but hey, why not? And so the team was like, no, screw that. And so the programmers, artists, and designers, without any of the managers around, said, hell with that. They came in on the weekend. They organized themselves into groups. They each tackled a couple of housing dungeons, and they knocked out 8 housing dungeons over the course of the weekend.
Wow.
And so we came back. Yeah, the secret here is probably have upper management leave on a regular basis, and things go faster. And so you knocked out all these housing dungeons. So you go find these objects out in the wild. You come back to your house, and then you sort of, you unwrap the sort of treasure map, and you find, hey, here's a dungeon entrance into this cool place, and now you bring your friends over, and you go through this kind of small group content together, and it's cool. And the best of those are things where you unlock stuff that's then, hey, you cleared out all the goblins, and now you go harvest gold out of their cave for the next week. So it's both an adventure, but then it's also a reward, which is expanding your house in kind of a new, interesting way for a period of time. So that kind of stuff's actually been pretty cool.
It's very cool.
And God bless the team, man. I love that esprit de corps where people they're not letting evil executive producer guy cut the stuff. They're like, screw that, we're going to come in and do it no matter what you like.
No, that's good.
A bit lacking, I'm afraid. And not going to talk about this one.
Housing dungeons. This is the first time I've ever even heard about this. Apparently they've mentioned it or hinted about it before, but this is the first time I've heard about it, and it sounds really, really interesting and just awesome. And it's the idea of being able to go out into the world to collect items and different pieces of a puzzle and then bring it back into your house to sort of form like a treasure map or something that allows you to unlock a dungeon. Now I'm unclear whether the dungeon is outside of the world or actually within your housing area, but I assume it's within your housing area because otherwise there'll be no need to sort of come back into your house with all your friends, as Jeremy Gaffney mentioned, that you can invite your friends around to your house to complete this dungeon. Now this to me sounds like it's going to be a lot of content. I mean, they're already making raids, dungeons, war plots. They've got a ton of things, so if they've got a team creating mini housing dungeons as well, then it's all going to be a bit like tipsy-turvy, and I don't know, what's going to get as much attention as it needs, if you like. But if they do everything really good, then I know that the housing dungeons are going to be awesome, and it's a really good idea because A lot of the times in MMOs, what you find is that you would log on and you get to the point where you've got nothing to do, in quotations, because there's tons of stuff to do in MMOs, obviously, but you've repeated the same content so much that you want to get on and do something new. Now in Wildstar, it seems like there's going to be a lot of different things that you could just go on to have fun with, rather than to go on and grind with. So for example, you would go on to do raids, dungeons, you know, a battlegrounds, arena, or what have you, and off the back of that, when you don't feel like grinding out those things for your new pieces of gear or whatever, then stuff like housing dungeons, as they've mentioned, and war plots, and they've got this sort of dynamic solo instant story content that they're doing as well. So there's going to be a lot of different things that are adding up to just being able to go onto the game to have fun rather than go onto the game to grind. And I think this is what housing dungeons really adds to the game. I'm not even too sure whether it's going to even be in the game, because they talked about, I mean, Jeremy Gaffney over on the interview sort of talks about that, you know, the management went away and they just decided to make these things and do it to see if it will all work and what have you. I'm still a bit unclear about the whole thing, but the fact that he mentioned it on a live interview that he knew like thousands of people would watch from the community means that it's probably going to be looked at to be put in the game, even if it's after launch. So it's something that we can, you know, get excited about. And to give a bit of an example for the housing dungeons, as Jeremy Gaffney said, is that, say for example, you kill the king of the goblins in a long quest chain, all the pieces from that quest chain are sort of gathered together to create and to solve a puzzle, and then from this you can you know, collect all these little pieces together, take it back to your house, and you and your friends can spawn a dungeon in which you and your friends can then like farm this dungeon for its various bits and pieces of goods for like the whole week. So you can log on each day. Instead of doing like daily quests, you can do your housing dungeon stuff. This is where I think it can have a huge advantage over current MMOs, because daily quests are very grindy, they're very boring, but if each sort of group of players, and you and your friends or you as a solo player, if you can just go out into the world and do your own sort of, you know, if you're going down a quest line, or if you like this zone or you like that zone, rather than being forced into content through daily quests, you can just progress your housing dungeon system so that you can eventually open up this dungeon and then farm and gather the materials from inside that dungeon for a set period amount of time. So similar to how daily quests, where you do X, Y, and Z daily quests to get reputation, to get medals, whatever it might be, in Wildstar case, I think housing dungeons would be an awesome idea to be able to achieve the same sort of goals that you usually get from daily quests, but just through a more sort of dynamic way through housing dungeons, and being able to actually go out and explore the world at your own leisure, rather than being forced to click on someone with an exclamation mark in order to do a daily quest. I hope you sort of get what I mean. I don't feel like I've explained myself very well, but overall, housing dungeons sounds absolutely awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing more information about it. Of course, for those who don't know, this is speculation zone, so everything that I say within this zone is not confirmed at all, and it's just me generally speculating on what the idea of this new feature, or whatever it might be, could be within the game. So housing dungeons, I see it as a possibility to replace sort of daily quests, or just as a possibility to be a fun sort of side thing to do in the game, rather than sort of grinding stuff out. So I hope it's not going to be actual like proper dungeons, and I hope it's just going to be like a bit of fun, interesting content for players to explore and enjoy. White Vale, the first open PvP zone in Wildstar, was announced by Jeremy Gaffney on IGN.
So the other thing you're debuting here, White Vale, a new environment. This is PvP.
Yeah, White Vale is cool for a couple of reasons. First of all, first time ever seen we have now going on our B-roll is White Vale. This is a cool zone. It's all full of where this giant battle happened, and in the middle of the battle, a spell went off and everything's been frozen, and so there's all sorts of stuff buried underneath the ice to discover. But most key, it's also the first area where you get to do PvP in the open world. So this is like level 22 to level 30, and now the factions start fighting, and you start getting to kick ass and take names in the name of your faction.
And that's what it's all about, right?
Hell yeah.
I'm just so excited! I think I might wet my britches. Uh-oh.
Jeremy Gaffney also done a live Q&A on MMORPG.com, and My Wife is a Ninja over on Reddit condensed all of the questions and answers into a nice Reddit post. So if you want to read what the questions and answers were, I would recommend reading the Reddit post rather than the forum. Zam have come out with another amazing article summing up the Closed Beta Test 1 and the changes that are going into Closed Beta Test 2. So if you're interested in the patch notes, Zam has pretty much summed it up in a nice article for you to cover the main changes that have happened. Elden Games is taking place over May the 18th to May the 19th. This is a Child's Play charity event hosted by the Late Night Dominion guys over at latenightdominion.com, who are your podcast hosts for that show as well. This is a 24-hour gaming marathon. They're going to be playing a range of free-to-play multiplayer games so everybody can get involved within the Wildstar community. Carbine have provided some swag, as it were, some prizes and goodies for you to get if you get involved and donate. And hopefully the odd dev will come onto the show as well, so you might get to talk to a couple of developers if you get involved. This is going on over at twitch.tv/latenightdominion. The link will also be in the description below, so make sure you head over there and donate. It's a great cause, and of course it's a good way of helping out the Wildstar community, as well as some children for charity as well. And the link to the Child's Play charity page will be in the description as well if you want to learn more about that. And that brings us to the end of the show. Like last week's, this week's video has been a little bit shorter due to me finishing up my university year. But if you did like the show, give it a like and make sure to share it with anyone who you would think would be interested in this week's Wildstar news. So guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next week.